I'd like to call the subcommittee back to order. We were going through our witnesses, and we had patient Mr. Nucky waiting. And I'd like to recognize him. He's the Tolls Technology Sector Manager at Atkins Global, and he is testifying today as a volunteer member of the International Bridge, Tunnel, and Turnpike Association's Interoperability Steering Committee, and is chair of that organization's Roadside Operations Subcommittee. So welcome, and thanks again, everyone, for your patience during the vote. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Mica, Ranking Member Duckworth, members of the subcommittee, and guests. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Nucky. I am providing this testimony as a volunteer member of IBTTA's Interoperability Steering Committee and as the chair of the Roadside Operations Subcommittee. It's my hope today to represent the voices of more than 100 volunteers so as to provide more detail on the process and status the IBTTA committees have worked on. As a volunteer, my statements and views represent my own opinion and are not necessarily the opinion of my employer, Atkins North America. IBTTA's committee and subcommittees have worked diligently to meet the MAP 21 requirements by planning for technology and business practices leading to electronic toll collection interoperability within North America in a manner that allows customers to establish a single account for use on all toll roads. We envision customers with an IOP account with one agency could participate with any other toll agency. They can use the electronic toll lanes of any other participating agency nationwide. This would be accomplished in part by having toll systems read a common national interoperable transponder. There are various complexities to nationwide toll interoperability. One of these relates to the limitations of transponders and reader devices to be interoperable. Toll agencies have made major financial investments in 8 existing protocols. These protocols can be thought of as unique languages that the electronics use to speak such that the toll transponder in a vehicle can communicate to the toll reader, thereby linking the vehicle to an account in milliseconds as a customer makes the toll payment. IBTTA's process has been to develop a requirements-based approach to select one of the existing protocols to become the national toll protocol. We created the Interoperability Steering Committees, and IBTTA then supported 4 subcommittees, each with specific responsibilities, including governance, interoperability branding, back-office operations, and the Roadside Operations Subcommittee, chaired by myself. Our focus has been the development of a requirements-based approach for a national toll protocol. To accomplish this, in 2004, we published the Industry Consensus Requirements document. We then shortlisted 3 of those existing 8 protocols for further analysis. After this, we verified industry intent by asking both agencies and suppliers to nominate one of the 3 shortlisted protocols. All 3 received nominations and advanced to the next step. The subcommittee then commissioned a special panel including technical and legal experts in the industry to review the supplier responses as to their ability to meet the published requirements. This past July, 2 of those protocols were approved to begin the testing efforts. The next step is to test these 2 candidate protocols to validate technical conformance with the requirements. Earlier this year, IBTTA publicly procured the services of an independent testing entity, Omni Certification Services. Testing will be in phases. Conformance testing is now under development to ensure the specification used to make the candidate protocols are in fact able to be built as specified by others. This is critical to protect the goal of adoption of an open technology that can be provided by multiple suppliers. This phase should be completed by January and is entirely funded by IBTTA. The performance testing is the next phase. This will be used to ensure the candidate protocol devices meet the performance criteria of the requirements. This testing phase is currently unfunded and requires approximately $3 million in unidentified funds. At the completion of testing, IBTTA will select a single national protocol for interoperability. IBTTA will then create a certification process to validate that suppliers seeking to sell IOP devices have in fact met the IOP requirements. With the certification process, toll agencies will then be able to procure and implement IOP national protocol standard devices. We anticipate that all agencies will have to make some changes to their current tolling systems to support interoperability. This will likely require funding over time. This will take a significant time as agencies each have unique procurement processes. Once the IOP National Toll Protocol Certification Standard is in place, the suppliers will offer innovative solutions that ease the transition to nationwide IOP adoption through the use of multi-protocol transponders and readers. The standards-based certification process should create the market environment for more competition and innovative industry approaches, such as integration of the National Toll Protocol into new vehicle systems, or perhaps into consumer electronics like smartphones. Much progress has been made in the IBTTA approach, almost completely through volunteer efforts. The process is now at a critical point. Funding is required to perform professional testing services and create a certification process. MAP 21 has provided the impetus for real interoperability progress. IBTTA has worked through complex issues and developed a process for national interoperability. The process has been defined, and the industry is preparing for interoperability. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess that concludes your statement.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. And it concludes all four witnesses' statements. Again, we thank you for joining us and being part of today's hearing. We'll turn now to questions, and I have some. We've heard about, again, standards being developed, and you just spoke to that, Mr. Nucky. When do you think that they would come up with a universal or acceptable national standard? What time frame?
Our process is now that we are in the first phase of that testing of those two protocols that have so far cleared all the pre-screening processes. We expect that to be complete by this January.
Well, that would be setting the standard and then testing afterwards.
Right. The standards are set.
And then you mentioned the standard, or the testing, you estimate about $3 million in cost for the testing. Okay, that will bring me over to Mr. Lindley. Is there any assistance available from the federal government under any of our programs? Maybe they could apply for, or have you applied for any? Do you know of any, like research and development or category? I think this is pretty important, and it sounds like they're absorbing a lot of the cost, but maybe there could be some way there could be some shared participation.
Yeah, we have looked at the possibility of using available research and technology funding to support elements of the testing that's planned, particularly the elements that help ensure that the technology is secure and reliable and works. We have not had discussions about funding potentially all of the testing. And
well, again, it could be a partnership. And these are commercial ventures. I don't know of anybody doing this just for the good of the order. But it would be incumbent on them also to participate. But it may be a possibility to bring you all together, if you haven't, to discuss some participation, because there's a public benefit to, I believe, in doing this. But is that something that could be arranged, Mr. Lindley?
I think we could certainly have more conversation about that.
Okay, Mr. Eden, are you the one that would help lead that? And of course, you're the subcommittee chair, Mr. Nucky. I'm not sure the
yes, sir. It would be most likely
order.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones.
Jones, okay. Well,
Mr. Chairman, yes, we would be the ones to
got to get a commitment out of
be
somebody
part of those
before we get out of here.
conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I think some type of partnership. My goal is to get you 1 year from now. I insisted on this hearing because I don't want to come a year from now and not have this done. And I think it's not a fair warning, but just working with you all. And I think you've done a great job to this point. Calling this hearing, I think already brought some people closer together. And that would actually lead me to one of my, well, before I get to my question about 95, okay, you get to a standard, and under TLU, or I guess it must have been TLU, we had done some preliminary work, then we did the MAP 21 requirement. The standard, is it necessary for that to be adopted by DOT? Should we have some legislation that gives you additional authority? Is what they're doing adequate, or should there be something that we nail down a little bit further? So first, Mr. Lindy, and then Mr. Jones.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we believe that the industry is making sufficient progress and, has the finish line in sight on this, so we would not be seeking any additional.
You have enough authority. And Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chairman, I would just hearken back to a conversation that happened 4.5 years ago in a hearing of the Highways and Transit Subcommittee of the T&I Committee, when the then president of IBTTA testified and the subject of interoperability came up. And Congressman DeFazio asked my president, Frank McCartney, about interoperability and said, look, if we just said, we want this to happen, we want you guys to make this happen and do it by a certain date. We don't tell you how to do it. We just tell you, please do it. Is that something that would be agreeable? And his response was, we would support that. So our understanding, our belief from the language in MAP 21 is that we're not mandating, there wouldn't be a law to mandate a specific technology or set of business rules, that it would be in the hands of the industry to work that out.
Okay. Well, again, I trust industry, but I'm sort of like Reagan. I trust and verify. I've had industry come up when we created TSA, the airline industry. If we take this responsibility of screening away from you, how much is it costing you now? $1 billion. Would you be willing to contribute that to help pay for this? Oh, yes, and it will relieve us of the liability, and oh, yes, and all the promises made. Then not only did they never meet that, now they've totally walked away from it. So it's, I just like to have things a little bit nailed down and make certain, again, that public interest is served. And it is something I think that will be advantageous to business, because you can conduct business nationally as opposed to just regionally or on a limited basis. But it does have some value, and people can tweak it, and people do play games, sometimes having set standards. So again, there's the whole host of issues that we have to look at. Thank you again for coming together before the hearing and meeting and making decisions. And most recently, I'm told that you're pretty close to a decision on agreement between Maine or the northern part of 95 down to Florida. Who can comment on that? When's it going to happen? When can I use my pass?
Mr. Chairman, I think I speak for all of us on the panel here that none of us can comment on that, because none of us were present in the room.
But you've heard about it?
We've heard about it,
Okay.
tangentially.
So I'll subpoena them, I'll testify them and get them in here, get them nailed. But I think that would be an exciting development. And the maps we've seen about the existing systems and coverage, it lends itself very well, particularly this part. I mean, members, Ms. Duckworth, it goes all the way over to Chicago, and I understand that the South is now has reached an agreement all the way towards California. Is that correct? Close to correct now? I see some people, yes, no.
Yeah.
So it's not done.
Currently, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas will be interoperable within the next few months. California is actually talking to the state of Washington, because they're switching to the same technologies, so you're seeing interoperability happen in that region also. Florida is talking to Texas to combine that link in addition. So we're seeing a lot of interregional cooperation, and I personally think that's part of it. This is going to evolve. This is going to take a long time. As you pick technologies, that's one piece. So you have the technologies piece, you have a standard that everybody agrees to, and then it has to be deployed. So, and that's
just so we get it done by next October. You have a lot of time until then to get it done. In the interim, I understand that license plates will also be used as sort of an interim technology. Can someone explain what's going on there?
Yeah, that's the ATI initiative, where we're taking license plate reads from one state, and all we have is the license plate number in the state. We don't have any personal information. And then putting into a database and matching it against license plate numbers in another state. So if you're driving from Pennsylvania to Florida, and you have an account in Florida, and you use your transponder in Pennsylvania, they'll pull it up and they'll say, well, we don't have an account in Pennsylvania. They'll send it to ATI. ATI will say, oh, that license plate matches the account in Florida, which by opening that account, you opt in to that program. So then we'll be able to say, okay, these two match, and Florida will deduct that amount from your account, and it will be transparent to the user.
Okay. The other question that always arises is privacy and the data that you have. Are there adequate safeguards in place, or do we need some additional safeguards legislatively to protect the personal information?
Well, the way we're setting up ATI, for instance, we don't have any personal data. We're not housing anything where there's no database of personal information. And to date, I'm not aware of any, and I don't like to say this because every time somebody says their system's never been hacked, somebody takes it as a challenge. But there's not been major breach in any toll agency that, that's created anything like that. But everything is a computer system. It's open. But I don't see any need for legislation. I don't know what legislation you could pass to actually help with that. The fact that that data is held in multiple locations across the country and not one centralized database also helps.
Okay, well, I may have some additional questions. I want to give Ms. Duckworth, who came in late, opportunity both for any comments she wants to make and questions. So whatever time you need, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing. Gentlemen, thank you for coming here. I think the ideal from a consumer's perspective is that you can get in your car anywhere in the continental U.S. and get to any part of the continental U.S. and never have to change systems. And I am wondering about the regional nature of these systems and what does toll interoperability really means? Are we moving towards that model at some point where you can get in anywhere and navigate, or is it going to be, the Atlantic seaboard block down to Florida, the Texas, and then you've got California here? Or is there a move to try to get to that?
So, Ranking Member Duckworth, thank you for the question, and thank you for having all of us here. We have all testified about the efforts that have been made to bring about national interoperability. And the goal of all of us on the industry side is to make it as simple as possible for the consumer and as cost-effective as possible for the agencies. That's the goal that we're working toward, that there would be any customer who wanted to drive on any toll system in the country would be able to do so using a single tag, a tag that meets the national toll protocol that we've developed, that our industry has developed, that is both open and non-proprietary. So we are moving toward that goal. And all of the regional interoperability is contributing to that. You're seeing a knitting together of the regions, the existing regions of interoperability to begin to make that happen.
Are there any issues with individual states' finances? I come from Illinois, and we have some significant challenges in our state, obviously. There are significant challenges for states that need to adopt some of the new technology within their tollway authorities, and anything that you think might be a stumbling block that you would need help with, or the states we need to keep our eyes open for. For example, if you've got a state that's using the transponders, but you need to install the license plate readers as well, what those costs, what those challenges are for states across the nation.
Yeah, I believe that there's going to be some challenges for some state toll agencies, especially the smaller ones. It depends what technology is chosen and what it will cost to swap out a reader or even eventually phase out the transponder to that national standard. That's why I've been talking about this happening over a period of time. So you're talking, like Easy Pass, I believe, has 3,800 lanes of equipment. So a swap out of equipment of that magnitude is substantial. And if you do it on the transponder side, which I don't believe we'd have to, you're talking about millions of transponders to change. It's like changing your credit cards, how difficult that can be. So I think there's going to be some financial challenges across the country for individual states, some not. Even with ATI, signing up with a program where we're saying, hey, look, we'll do it for basically the transaction costs for the first year, there's been some reluctance because it's still a cost. It's still something they have to do. So I think definitely it's going to be a financial issue on the actual implementation side for some agencies.
So with that, sort of building on what the chairman asked earlier, which is he said, if you've got an agreement by January of 2016, tell me where you think you can be by December of 2016. If you've got an agreement in January, by the close of 2016, where do you see?
Excuse me, I'll start with the response on that, Ranking Member Duckworth. By 2016, by the end of 2016, we hope, assuming we can have some funding for the testing, the critical performance testing area, we expect by the end of 2016, by hopefully this time to the end of 2016, we will have the process far enough along where we can have a certification process where industry can bring their devices to a certification service where it will be tested and certified as being interoperable. And what that does is opens up the opportunity for agencies to procure that certified device for national toll interoperability.
So then we could start seeing some of this in consumers' hands by 2017.
It depends on the procurement sequence of the individual agencies, but as soon as they have the financial means to do that and the business rule aspects worked out, yes.
Is there any potential for using the system in order to offset some of the costs in terms of commercializing any portion of it? You said, you've got this data that you're tracking for commercial trucking companies, the like. Is there any way to commercialize any of this in order to raise any kind of funds from the system? I mean, this is a trove of data, right? It's just as we are very concerned, I'm deeply concerned about data breaches and the security and privacy of individual consumers' data. And I think that it's got to be more than, the answer's got to be more than, we've never been hacked, we never heard of anybody been hacked, so it probably won't happen. That's not a good enough answer. We'll get to that. But on the other side of that is, this is data that could potentially, I would think, be of value to commercial entities. And is there any way of looking at, is there any opportunities there?
Yeah, frankly, ATI has been approached by a couple of commercial entities, both on the data mining side, and again, there's a fine line there on the data privacy side, so you have to be careful. And also, on probably the hottest electronic market right now is electronic payment systems. And once you put a transponder in a car that can do financial transactions, there's a lot of other industries, even municipal parking, commercial parking, fast food, all that type of stuff. But it's a balance between privacy and the commercialization and the mix of government and private entities. So I guess the short answer is yes, but I think we have to proceed very cautiously in that area.
With that said, what's the industry doing to be sure that you, as these emerging potentials, as these potential emerges, that you're safeguarding privacy issues? Is there a subcommittee or a joint work group or a task force? Or Mr. Lindley, does the department have any insight and potential into how to govern the potential commercialization of the data?
We've not had any discussions about how to commercialize the data. The toll collection data does get used in some applications like traffic data collection, interaction with travel information, but none of those applications currently generate revenue. They go to public agencies, and then that information is shared.
I'm concerned. I mean, I think there's potential, but I'm concerned about the security and safety of that data. And I think that as we acknowledge, as your panel has acknowledged, there is this potential. If there's potential to make money, somebody's going to figure out a way to make money off of it. And if that's the case, then we should now on the front end be prepared to put in the safeguards so that we can make money off of it, but in a way that protects the consumers. And with that, I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Grossman.
Thank you. Just like to thank the chairman for holding this hearing. I think it was said this is going to be an exciting hearing. I don't find it exciting, but it was an enjoyable hearing nonetheless. Trying to think who we'll give this question to. We'll ask Mr. Jones. Say for every dollar collected, state gets off this, how much do you guys in general take, or how much in general is the company that runs these tolls, how much do they take of that?
If I understand your question, you want to know, could you come at me with that again?
Let's say I get $100. I'm in the state of Wisconsin. We don't have tolls right now, but the day comes when we get tolls. If I pay $100 in tolls to the state of Wisconsin, or $100 tolls on the freeway, how much goes to either the upkeep of the toll system or the company that administers it or whatever?
Well, it's a good question. And Congressman, it's going to depend a lot on the individual configuration and environment of each toll system. Certainly electronic toll collection, I can tell you the cost to actually collect the revenue has gone down significantly since it was first introduced in the late 1980s. And there's probably some variation from agency to agency as to the actual cost to collect that. So I'm probably not the best person to tell you a specific percentage. I would defer to my colleagues.
Sure, we'll go on to, I don't know, whoever. Mr. Eden.
Yeah. First, all the cost as far as implementing the system and maintaining them goes back to the individual agency. So the state of Florida, Tampa, Hillsborough, individually does that. As Pat said, it depends on a lot of factors, how many violations they're getting, how they have to track it down, et cetera. But basically, it costs probably around 10 to 15 cents a transaction for an electronic toll collection transaction. Now, currently under video, it's more because somebody has to read the video. There's automatic, optical character recognition, but, somebody wants to verify that that's there. So, and then also currently under that, which makes it a little more complicated, if there's not currently without ATI, if there's not an account on file, somebody has to look that up through DMV, send letters out, usually 3, which would cost the postage and everything else, which significantly ups that cost of collection. So all this will reduce the cost. As far as the groups, I wasn't real clear in the question. The groups, Pat's organization, IBTTA, is not-for-profit. They don't get any revenue from that. Either does the ATI. It's just a bunch of toll agencies, so we don't get any revenue. It all goes back to.
Well, there's got to be a general number, though, right?
Okay.
I mean, if the state of Wisconsin in 1 year gets, I have no idea what it would be, $1 million. For every $1 million, I assume if I'm putting $1 million in the cash box or $1 million on, I guess Illinois calls it the iPass, I don't know if it's Illinois or interstate. How much of that $1 million that I pay works its way to the Wisconsin Department of Revenue? Nobody knows?
Tough question.
In this computerized age, nobody knows.
Well, it's also a factor that, again, I'd return to my original statement that it's going to depend on the individual agency and their operations. What may happen in New York may be different from what happens in California, Pennsylvania, Texas.
Absolutely. So, but you must have an idea. Is it 1 cent a dollar? Is it 5 cents a dollar? Is it 15 cents a dollar? I mean, give me a couple. Say this is what it costs in New York. This is what it costs in Florida.
Yeah, we can show you studies that the cost of all electronic toll collection is down around 5 or less than 5% of the value of the toll.
And it'd be 5 cents to the company plus what the state kicks in to set up this stuff and maintain it?
Well, I don't know what you mean when you say it's 5 cents to the company. So, in other
Okay, 5 cents to the system. If I'm the state of Wisconsin.
Right.
And I decide I'm going to build a new interstate, and on this interstate, I'm going to toll it, I can expect probably, if somebody says, yeah, let's go the toll route, I can expect that for every dollar that the motorist pays for their iPass or whatever, that 95 cents will go to the state of Wisconsin. Is that accurate?
in a mature, all-electronic toll collection system, yes, I would say you're probably in that range.
Is that accurate, you other guys?
Yeah, if you're just looking at the cost of toll collection and not the cost of operation of the roadway and the debt and services and everything else that's involved in that. But if you're just purely looking at the toll collection cost versus the toll, the 5 to 10 cent ranges, and it's all electronic, and you have enough people that it's 80% or more using that electronic transponder and not a lookup, that's a good number. That's why I keep qualifying it.
Am I already 8 minutes over, or what is this here? Okay, that's the benefit of being one of the diligent, caring, conscientious legislators here. So, okay, you said that's in a mature system, 5 cents. You kind of imply if it's not a mature system, it'll be higher. Is that right?
Yeah, what generally happens when you implement any kind of toll collection system, it takes a while to get the tags out there, to get people to actually buy them. I was a COO for North Carolina, and we put a brand-new road, it was a greenfield road, in, so there was no toll roads in the state. And it takes a while for people they'll drive on the road, but they don't have a transponder. So at that point, they're not account holders, you have to look them up. So it takes a while to market, get that penetration rate up into that mature system where they're just going through and you don't have to do anything with the transaction except to read it. That's why the mature system. And generally, it takes a year and a half, 2 years to actually get up to that, 70, 80% penetration rate.
Okay. I mean, for years and years, and I rarely leave my district now since I got this job, but years ago when I used to drive into Illinois, they had the cash boxes and you throw the quarters in or whatever. Then I take it was a lot more, back in those days.
Yeah, cost of cash collection actually is a lot higher than electronic toll
That's what I
collection.
mean, it used to be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying for somebody to count that money. In the case of the coin boxes they used to throw, I remember Garden State Parkway, there's a lot of change that doesn't make the basket. It falls on the ground, and people try to scrape it up and things like that. But there's cost to doing all that. And then there's all the staff costs to collect it and the armored car cost and everything else. Where electronic toll collection, basically you drive through and you collect the money. And there's credit card fees, et cetera, and it depends on your discount rates you have with the credit card companies and that. But, the credit card's guaranteeing the fee, so it's a much easier, less costly transaction.
Okay, so I can expect the state of Wisconsin, if I report back to these guys, about a nickel off the top for the collection plus whatever it costs to set up these things all over the highway.
Yeah, and generally, most toll agencies purchase the equipment up front. Now, some agencies run their own back office. However, most contract. There's a couple vendors, I don't know if they're in the room, that actually do that. So, so that would be a cost, and that's a bid contract negotiated.
Okay, and is there a study that says how much it is for, say, per dollar collected to maintain the capital costs or whatever it is? Is that another penny, 2 pennies? Do you know?
Well, capital costs of the systems themselves, there's a couple things, and it depends on the type of systems. For instance, if you have what type of classification system, how you're trying to determine if it's a car or a truck or what type of truck type deal. So that adds to the complexity of the systems also. Also, if you're tying it into your intelligent transportation systems, your ITS systems for smart city and things like that, a lot of people are looking at that today. So again, it's not an easy answer just to say.
I know it depends, but there must be a study, 1 to 3 cents, 5 to 7 cents.
I don't have the study.
Nobody knows. A mystery. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank my chairman for indulging me.
Thank you, and it is an exciting hearing for me. Rarely around here can you make things happen, and it takes a while. We haven't got this totally in place, but you see it coming together, and I think it'll be beneficial. It's interesting, though, just you don't have any toll roads? No, we have. Just in my district, around my district, I bet I have 150 miles of toll roads in central Florida and growing. And to expand the highway system, we did put the public-private partnerships, which is a means now to expand capacity and pay for it. Let me yield to patient Ms. Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too have many, many toll roads around us, and in fact, we have a new one that's being formed that, thanks to the great Secretary Regula Hood, we're able to actually extend and upgrade the Elgin O'Hare Expressway, and we're given the decision to be allowed to actually toll an existing roadway that was not a toll road before because it's a short distance, but it's going to mean tremendous, tremendous opportunity for growth in the Western O'Hare Airport area. So I shout out to Secretary LaHood and the Department of Transportation and all the team that worked on that. I want to go back to the cost of implementing. The chairman actually showed me this Ziploc bag with all of different transponders in it. And I remember what it was like when I switched from my old iPass transponder, yep, I had one just like this, to the smaller one, which I have in my car now. What is the cost of switching all of these out? If you go to this new system, I would imagine that there is an upfront cost, an investment cost in either getting the consumers to bring these old systems back, mail them back, something to switch to. Eventually, I guess there is just this nifty little tag that you stick on your door. What does that cost? I mean, if we start to implement this, are we looking at a significant investment cost just for these things and for the consumers? Would there be additional costs? Would the consumers have to pay for the devices to start off with? How does that work?
Well, we'll both answer. I guess I'll start. I think ideally what would happen, we'd switch the reader part first. So if we had a common, we'd go to a multi-protocol reader that would read the initial, whatever the agency's using, if it's EasyPass, and whatever they went to, 6X, whatever that is going to be, right? And therefore, people would be able to use their existing transponders until they expired normally. And then there would be a swap out to whatever that new transponder is.
And we've looked at some of the costs of transponders. We conducted a nationwide survey as we started this process, and we found transponder costs range from the sub $1 to the $25 range, with an average around $10 or so. But transponder costs would only be necessary for those agencies that had to adopt the new technology. We anticipate that one of the national protocols will already be in use, or the chosen single national protocol will already be in use at many agencies. So agencies that already have that chosen protocol in use wouldn't have a cost of transponders. Other agencies would, and it's hard to project the exact cost of that until we know which is the winning protocol, so to say. But we would expect it would be hundreds of millions of dollars ultimately.
Up front, just for the implementation?
Over the transition period to replace it.
Okay. Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, and thank you for participating. Do you have another question? Yeah, go ahead. And I got a couple of them.
When you gave me that 5% number, I assume, and again, we don't have this in my state, but I assume that you probably usually always have a person at every cash box, right? Just in case I show up and I don't have the iPass or, you know, whatever. For that 5%, do you folks pay for the guy or gal at the cash box, or is that on the state?
Well, just as a practical matter, if you are going to introduce tolling in your state,
Right.
You're probably not going to create cash booths. You're going to initiate it all electronic. So, and you have an advantage that way because you don't have a history of all these booths existing. So the recommendation would be, and probably the best practice would be, to start with an all-electronic system. So you eliminate that particular toll collection, you know, human toll collection cost.
Okay, but then how do I, if I show up and I have no change, what do I do?
Basically, that's where the license plate comes in. So if you don't have an account, let me walk through all electronic first. So in an all-electronic system, you would, that marketing time I talked about where you go and you buy the transponder, and you put money on the account, and you'd have the device to put in your windshield. Then you'd just be able to drive through at highway speeds. Basically, the toll collection system at that point looks like a sign gantry, just like an overhead sign gantry, nothing else. So it's made it really simple for even for state DOTs and other people to implement, like on managed lanes, and inexpensive. However, if you don't have an account or something happens and your transponder doesn't read, that's where the backup comes in, it's the license plate. So we'll always have to have the license plate in an electronic system for a backup to that system. So you don't have an account, it will read the license plate, and in the case of ATI, they would send it to us, and if you had an account someplace else, it would be okay. If you didn't have an account any place, they would go to your state DMV. And the state DMV would then send that toll agency your license plate information, and they would mail you a invoice, probably with the fee on it that was going to cost you a little bit more because it costs them more to process that transaction.
Okay, thank you much.
Well, this is all an educating process, as you can see, for me, for members of Congress and the public, but some exciting technology. I took Mr. Desalegn up to New York, and we saw the using of the electronic pass in their real-time traffic management system, and that's pretty exciting when you can take the signal from the pass, read it, and change out the signals, which moves traffic in a very expedited fashion. And now they're doing that with a cell phone signal, too. Well, speaking of cell phone, how long before this device you think will be used? Is it now, are there any systems that now use this?
I think once we have a standard, industry will have something they can develop.
Yeah,
towards.
some little kid in
And-
as part.
There actually are some that are experimenting with that, to be able to link your phone to a transponder.
Yeah.
And so that
This
is
is
potential.
kind of cute staff and members. Yesterday I met with the president of Greyhound, and he says, you know, we have an app that can, we can identify any Greyhound bus wherever it is right now and when it's going to be at its destination. And he was showing me the app, and he said, I said, wow, that's something, that's great technology. How'd you develop it? He said, we hired a bunch of kids. I guess they were basically college kids and young kids. There's more than 100, and they developed that basically for Greyhound. It was done by giving these little whiz kids that challenge, and it's in use, and you can tell where any bus is anytime when it's going to get to wherever it is. So all you have to do is give it to a bunch of kids, and they'll figure it out once you get your standards at Mr. Eden.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because, again, this, on the ATI side, we've had discussions with car suppliers, car manufacturers, and cell phone companies. And the cell phone companies had a problem with how do we determine who of the 4 people in the car actually is paying? But technology is advancing. Every time we turn around, there's something new. I just got this in the mail yesterday. I'm not going to tell who it is, but it's a card that holds all my credit cards and a whole bunch of other information that's tied to my cell phone. So if you can do that with this, and Apple and Google and everybody are working with cell phones tied into the car, I'm sure they could do the same thing eventually with the car and the cell phone. So I think that's going to be evolving technology as far as time frame. It's probably 5 years away, maybe. That's just me guessing.
Well, we're all surprised at the technology advances. We've been joined by Mr. Desalegn. I was just mentioning about our trip and seeing what they were doing. Did you have any questions?
No, it's probably all been said, but I just following your comments, Mr. Chairman, just a question, and maybe it's because I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, of not making sure that transponders may be, as you alluded to, ancient technology in 5 years. So I know the California Highway Patrol is buying plate readers right now. They can, to your point about whether there's 2 or 3 people in an HOV lane, part of the technology is so that they can do that without having a unit out there, or electronic license plates. I've been told that electronic license plates that people are trying to sell at will tell you that will facilitate a more accurate, more secure form of technology. So as you do all this, it's all great stuff, but anticipating that technology is going to change so you don't have to go back out again and put a lot of money into the infrastructure, to the degree you can do that.
Yeah, I think, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask Mr. Lindy if there had been any thought to requiring a barcode on a vehicle.
Yeah, telematics in car can tell the manufacturers almost everything they want to know anyways, so.
I mean, I remember working in the rail industry when I was in college, and we used to take down the number of each boxcar, and today they're read instantaneously. They know where every boxcar is. You stop and think of the implications there if it's embedded somewhere in the vehicle that you could find out where it is. There's just a whole host of things from safety and security. But I think we're going to see a lot of that probably. The age is just dawning. And many vehicles, as we know, are embedded, and we've already had issues. Maybe that might be the subject of a hearing, of how they're protecting your car from getting hacked. But any comment, Mr. Lindy?
We haven't had any thought around requiring a barcode, if you will. There is technology that folks can opt into that allows devices to be connected into their existing system so that they can be tracked if they get stolen, or but that's strictly a consumer opt-in technology, not a requirement.
Well, we also appreciate your willingness to hopefully get with these folks if there's any way we can partner in helping them on the testing aspect. The goal is to get this in place as soon as possible. We might want to sit down with you as we're developing finalization of the successor to MAP 21, because we do have some requirements under that law for compliance by next October. Want to have a practical pathway to get this done, not overbearing, but also something to hold your feet to the fire, and I'll provide that at the appropriate time. Some months out, but it's going to come because, again, I think sometimes we have the responsibility in Congress to make certain things happen. So, but I appreciate everyone's willingness to participate today, get sort of a reading, run the scanner over where we are on this project, and thank members for their participation. There being no further business, again, I thank the panelists for coming. We'll go ahead and we adjourn this subcommittee. Thank you.